Happy Tuesday, guys, and welcome to WagerTalk TV. This is the final episode of this season of Stoppage Time, and we're covering three big games, and they're all cup games we're going to be covering. We're going to do the Europa League, which goes on Wednesday. We're going to do Saturday's FA Cup between Man City and Manchester United, the Manchester Derby, and then we're going to finish it off with the final of the biggest club tournament in the world, the Champions League final between Italian side Inter Milan and Man City. So we'll be seeing a lot of Man City on this show. With me from WagerTalk.com, it's Kevin Dolan, Pavlos Lagaretos, and Bryan Power. And Kev, I'm going to bring you in first, my friend. I'm looking forward to it. I keep saying it every single show. August 19th, the meet and greet. I'll get to see you for the first time, and we're going to hit a pub or three, I'm pretty sure, during that time. How are things with you, man?
Put them together, Carmine. We'll hit 13 pubs. I'm feeling good. Being on a great little heater over the last few weeks in soccer. We were number one over the last 7 days, I believe, going into yesterday. Fair play to Pavlos. I think he's number one now. But it's been good. 18.3 units banked across the last week. We're up over 33% ROI across all soccer moneyline wagers over the last month as well. That's predominantly what we're firing on. But took an L last night. I was on Viking plus 1.5 over in Norway. They were covering in the 87th minute. We know how this story ends. And then they just completely fell apart over the final few minutes, allowed 3 goals in 6 minutes. I remember when the Vikings were tough, so not happy about that, especially considering the 3 plays that we had up. Both of the smaller plays won, Stayback and Ham Cam, respectively. So frustrating night last night, but can't complain overall. It's been a great last 7 days, great last month, so hopefully get back to it in the midweek slate.
Yeah, and there's still, as you said, there's still plenty of action going on. It may not be the top 5 leagues, but there's still action in Europe. And of course, it's going to be a busy summer with the Leagues Cup. For those who are unfamiliar with the Leagues Cup, it is going to be a World Cup style format with every single team from the Major League Soccer and the Mexican League as well too. So Liga MX. So we got plenty of soccer during the summertime, and of course we've got the Women's World Cup. Let's not forget that. 2019 was an exciting one in France, and this one should be just as good. Pavlos, we'll bring you in. You're on a nice little hot run yourself. How are things?
Really nice. I just have to touch on Kevin's play yesterday with Viking. I had both teams to score and over 2.5 goals. I was lucky to get that Viking goal, to be honest, because, their defense looked in shambles. But yeah, Norway is, along with Sweden, are one of just a few of the leagues we're going to be covering. I know Kevin does. I'm not sure if you guys cover those. But we got Brazil, Argentina, Copa Libertadores, Copa Sudamericana. As you said, the Women's World Cup, the Leagues Cup, MLS is still in action. So there's plenty of soccer to be played during those summer months. And WagerTalk does run a sweet promo for 50% off. It's for a 3-month program, I believe. If you check anybody's page, it's there for you to check. But yeah, won my 5% over the weekend with an over in the League One, 11-1 with this big plays in the French League One. So yeah, I do have multiple plays loaded, 4% for today, 5% for tomorrow, and a 4% for tomorrow. So soccer is not slowing down anytime soon, and we're here to cover your every need.
Every need. I love to hear, Pavlos, and keep that run going. And guys, today's Tuesday, so it is obviously $2 Tuesday at WagerTalk and Sports Memo. $2 Tuesday, where you can get a featured Cappers plays for only $2. And included in that play is are some great promos at WagerTalk. The $2 capper is none other than Bryan Power. So we'll bring Bryan Power in. He'll tell us about his $2 play and his streaks. How's it going, Bryan?
Going great, Carm. Yep. 5% winner today at WagerTalk, just $2 going back to December. I am number one at WagerTalk with all 5% plays across all sports, 74%, even better. Won my last 5% plays. This one happens to be in MLB on an 18-8 hot streak at the ballpark right now, up 71.9 units going back to last October, all MLB. That is my only play today, again, for just $2. You can't miss it, a 5% max bet. We don't have a ton of these, but when we do, they typically cash. And then soccer, also, by the way, not, of course, the topic at hand. We want to mention that. It was a positive week, great week. If you listened to the show last week, we cashed all 3 plays in the Premier League relegation battle. Tottenham over Harry Kane. He scored not just once, but twice. Leicester, must win, did mean will win. We had them, but of course they got relegated because Everton won, and we had Everton to keep a clean sheet. So doing well on all fronts, Carm, and the big one is tonight, again, for just $2 at WagerTalk, my 5% MLB play.
All right. Best of luck to you, Brian, on that play. And yeah, it's not very often where I have 3 screens going on an EPL weekend, and none of them have any of the top teams on them. I had all 3 relegation battle games on the TV and had that Tottenham over as well too, and Everton. So it was an enjoyable weekend as far as the relegation battle. Including the total in the Leicester game. But we have 3 big games to talk about, and the first one is on Wednesday. This is the final of the Europa League. Sevilla, perennial champions of this tournament, having won it 6 times against AS Roma. The odds on this one, Sevilla plus 167, the draws plus 199, Roma plus 195. And Kev, I'm going to go right back to you first on this one. Sevilla is you wonder about the Sevilla team. They got themselves out of relegation with a good run in the second half of the season, but they pretty much have been focusing on this tournament because this is their only way to get back into the Champions League. They currently sit 11th or finished 11th in La Liga, and of course Roma sitting outside the top 4, no chance of a Champions League spot, but they can with this berth in the Champions League up for grabs here. Jose Mourinho, the man who just wins trophies wherever he goes, the manager for AS Roma. Give me your thoughts on this game.
I'm expecting this one to be very close tomorrow, Carmine. We've seen all the favourites bout of this competition so far, Arsenal, Barcelona, Man United, Juventus, and so on. And it's something I really need to write in big red letters on my monitor. Do not fade this Sevilla team in the Europa League under any circumstances. As you mentioned at the start, we've seen their poor start of the season domestically. They were all the way down in the relegation zone, right up until about January, I believe, earlier this year. They had, obviously, Lopetegui got fired, the man who most recently guided them to the Europa League success. And they just didn't look like the same animal anymore. I picked Manchester United against them in that first leg over in England. Maybe Sevilla got a little bit fortunate in that one. United almost seemed to throw that game away late. But, nevertheless, Sevilla, they just know how to grind out results. Obviously, they put Juventus to the sword in the very next round as well. So, basically, if Sevilla were facing anyone else here but Roma in the final, I'd be all over the Spanish side in this one. But as you said, they're just running into almost their equal in cup success and Jose Mourinho, Coppa Italia's, Copa del Rey's, FA Cups, Champions League, UEFA Cups. Last year's Europa Conference League title as well. There's not too many, cup finals this guy doesn't know how to win. And I'm just kind of waiting for the day that he goes to manage Sevilla, and then I'll be 5%ing them in the Europa League pretty much every game, every year from that point on. But because of all that, I just can't pick a side here. Both teams' stats as well are markedly similar across the competition as a whole. Sevilla do own the slightly better numbers when factoring in their tougher schedule. They face the tougher, teams to get to this point. But, very little separates them here. I believe we see this one. I think it's very likely to end in an outright draw after 90 minutes, go into extra time as a result. So, yeah, I like the outright draw. It's going off at plus 200 right now in regulation. I just expect it to be a real tight game over in Budapest tomorrow. And I'd also like to invite you gentlemen, next year's Europa League final is in Dublin. I think we should live stream this show from Temple Bar next year. Just throwing that out there as well.
That might not be a bad idea because Juventus is not qualifying for Champions League unless they get those 10 points back. So they're stuck in the Europa League, and as will be Liverpool, a team that is perennially in or annually in the Champions League tournament, and they haven't made it this year. So how about a Liverpool Juventus final? Maybe the karma gods will make that work, and then we'll have some pints in Dublin. Looking forward to it. Pavlos, I look at this game, and I kind of agree with Kevin in the sense of this might not be settled after 90 minutes. I was on WagerTalk yesterday and talked about that while the odds are juicy across the board on either Sevilla, Roma, or the draw, that the better angle might be lifting the trophy, which is minus 110 either way. But when I think about Sevilla and I look at this total, the total's sitting at 2. So the bookmakers don't think there's a lot of action in it. And the last time I saw a total like this, it seems like it was when Sevilla played Inter Milan in the final of the Europa League. And I thought there couldn't be a lot of scoring in this game, could there? And it finished in a 3-2 game, a 5-goal thriller with Sevilla hoisting the trophy once again. Goals in this game, Pavlos, or another low-scoring affair for Sevilla?
Looks like a low-scoring affair for Sevilla. And though generally, Sevilla, they've never lost a Europa League Cup final. Europa League final. They went there 6 times. They won there 6 times. This is their 7th final, most than any other side. Of course, they won it more times than any other side. However, there's let's say a slight gap in the quality of the managers. Now, as you know, we talked about how Sevilla have done a perfect job when they're reaching the finals, but so has Mourinho. Mourinho is the only coach to have won the Conference League, which of course last season was the first edition, a Europa League, and the Champions League twice. So Mourinho is a mastermind. He doesn't really have a very good roster, to pick from. He does have a lot of injuries, but he always knows, how to slow things down. And as for Sevilla's coach Mendilibar, this guy doesn't have a lot of experience at this stage, but he does have a lot of experience in high pressure situations like this. Now, he saved Eibar 4 or 5 times. Eibar, they're one of the teams that were struggling in the La Liga, that were always fighting to be relegated. He saved them, I believe it's 4 or 5 times. So he's a specialist in his own, in his own manner. Teams, they employ him to just save teams from relegation. So he knows exactly how to deal with situations of high pressure, but this is a whole different beast. So if I had to bet on side here, I definitely have to go with Roma. Now, whatever you pick here is not wrong. There's a good case for either side. However, I don't think there's going to be a lot of goals, especially in the first half. Now, I'm going to go with the first half under 0.75 goals, which is a split line between under half a goal and under 1 goal. I think both sides will take things very, very slowly. Nobody wants to get behind in a final, get behind, in the score. Nobody wants to concede the first goal because it's, extra anxiety. You have to open up for an equalizer. Both teams have, very quick transition from the defense to the offense. They like to play down both wings. They can play. They don't really like it, but they can play down both wings really quickly. So they can open up spaces. I think both coaches, especially, I'm going to just repeat what I said. Mourinho won't open up for any reason whatsoever. Mendilibar for Sevilla won't open up because he knows he's been in a similar situation. I just have to say a similar, not the same. But yeah, I think that what makes Roma the favorites in my eyes is the fact that Sevilla's coach doesn't have any actual European experience playing in European competition. So I believe we're going to see easily a goalless draw in the first half. So I like the first half under.
All right, Pavlos Agretos of WagerTalk.com. And I get it, Pavlos, with Mourinho. Maybe he's doing sort of the promotion thing with this Roma team. He wins the European Conference. He gets into the Europa League. Maybe he wins the Europa League, and next year is in the Champions League, and you might want to put some money on Roma at that point as he tries to sweep the 3 trophies over 3 years. Brian, the only thing about this Roma team, and I'm going to go to you for the final words, is their record this season against the top 6 teams, not including themselves in Serie A, was 2-7-3. Wins over Inter Milan and Juventus, draws against AC Milan twice, once against Juve, but then they lost 7 games. Napoli twice, Lazio twice, Inter once, and Atalanta twice. This is another big game, obviously on a different stage. Can Mourinho find something to get them across the line here?
Well, look, we've all been through the vaunted reputations here of both sides, Sevilla in this competition, what Mourinho does in cup finals. So let's talk about what these teams have done domestically a little bit here for a second. Roma already guaranteed a spot in Europe next season. It's still to be determined if it's going to be the Europa League or the Europa Conference League. Through the league, of course, none of that matters. They would prefer to win here, obviously. Same with Sevilla, who has an outside shot at finishing 7th in La Liga, which would be Conference League for them. But again, this is the big match for both. Roma, to me, Carm, you talk about their kind of underperforming record in the league. I thought they were a side that should have finished top 4 in Serie A. They had the 3rd best expected goal difference. They had the 3rd most expected points, trailing only Napoli, who won the league, and Inter, who's, of course, in the Champions League final, as we're going to talk about here in a little bit. It really seems as if they've almost been more concerned with the Europa League than they have Serie A. No wins in the last 4 matches overall. Oh, by the way, I did cash a ticket Saturday with Fiorentina against Roma. That was, I thought that was left for dead, but Fiorentina scored 2 late goals to steal the 3 points there. Meanwhile, Pavlos talked about, Mourinho versus Mendilibar. We need to talk about what Sevilla has done here since under their 3rd manager of the season. He takes over on March 21st. The team was only 2 points clear of the drop zone. They've lost only twice since then, and one of those was last week to Real Madrid. Here in the Europa League, they've beaten Manchester United. They've beaten Juventus. So, when looking at their season as a whole, we have to decide, okay, do we sort of just throw out what happened before March 21st? But in making my selection here, I come back to this. Roma is 2nd in all of Europe, behind only Napoli, in expected goals allowed. Sevilla, over the course of the full season, has been a bottom 6 side in La Liga in expected goals allowed. Dybala is going to be on the pitch in some form or another for Roma on Wednesday. Whether we go to added time or not, I would not be surprised like you guys if we did. I think 1 goal may be all we see here, and I'm going to say it comes from Roma. I will take Roma to win the cup on Wednesday. Another cup win for Jose Mourinho.
All right, and Bri, first of all, for those who are wondering what Roma to win the cup is, books will have something that says to lift the trophy. So that incorporates not only the 90 minutes of the game, but if the game goes to extra time and or penalty kicks, that's your side. That's your bet. Most bets or all bets at books are normally graded on the 90-minute line in any injury time. So with these cup competitions, there always is a price on to lift the cup, and that's just the actual winner at the end. So this one is minus 110 both ways. So that's a very good price. Normally you'll see a slanted price, much like you'll see in the final game that we talk about, which is the Champions League final. And Bri, to your point of I think you're correct in saying you have to look at it since that managerial change and that 3rd change. They've been very good. And that one loss, one of the 2 losses that came this past weekend, they did rest quite a few players in that game. So that wasn't their full Sevilla side. So I think you can draw a line through that one and really look at it. They really, under this manager, they really only lost 1 game with their regular lineup out on that pitch. All right, guys, we're going to go to the FA Cup final first before we do the Champions League final. And it is Man City and Manchester United. Manchester Derby. The odds on this one, Man City minus 225. The draw is plus 360. Man United is plus 450. Pavlos, I'm going to go to you first on this one. I'm going to say Man City broke my hearts last weekend because they've done everything I asked them to. Erling Haaland did everything I asked them to cash a lot of future bets, both at WagerTalk and for my own betting accounts. But I had Man City to finish with 90 points or more. They drew last week, and then this past weekend, all they needed was a point. I figured they could get 2 points out of 2 games, but Brentford score one late, and they end on 89 points. But that's for me to worry about. Give us a winner in this game, Pavlos.
We all know about Brentford's, striker Ivan Toney and his betting, shenanigans that got him banned for 8 months. So it's quite suspicious that the line was set at 90 points for, Manchester City to finish with 90 points or more. And then they play Brentford in the final match day and then they lose. I'm just saying that, I wouldn't be surprised if there was something suspicious going on there. But
I'm not
let's
feeling
leave this
any
aside.
better, Pavlos.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling any better about that.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling any better about that. But I get it. And Ivan Toney, we wish him the best. His suspension has been reduced. It's obviously an addiction, but we'll talk about it at a different time. Give me your thoughts on this one, man. Which is Manchester going to be red or blue after the FA Cup final?
It's tough for me to say red because I've gone against Manchester City just twice this season, both in the Champions League. Once was their home match against Bayern, and then their home match against Real Madrid. I got smashed in both occasions. I mean, I got destroyed because the teams that I picked got destroyed. So I have a sort of post-traumatic disorder, while capping Manchester City. So I'm not gonna pick a side here. Usually Manchester derbies have goals. Both teams score in overs, over 2.5s, over 3.5s, you name it. But whenever they meet in cups, this statistic is flipped. 3 of the last 4 cup matches they played had under 3 goals. Now, Manchester City, they are generally tremendous at home. There's no, I could speak like 3 days for about their numbers. They're excellent at home. However, this is not a home match. This is played at the neutral Wembley Stadium. And, even though fans are going to be there, this is not the Etihad. So I'm treating Manchester City as if they were playing on the road. And on the road, they have a whole lot of under 3s, a lot of pushes when the total line is set at 3. And I'm going to go with the under 3 goals in this match. I think both teams are going to be very careful. I think Manchester United, I think they know that they can't really outscore Manchester City. So even though they did when the two teams last met, I believe this is going to be a very careful match. And, this season we saw a lot of, quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, or knockout matches where you expected to see an over, but it was an under. Then you say, why was this an under? It's an under because it's a semifinal or a final. It's a crucial match, and teams don't want to get behind. So much like I said about the Europa League final, I'm going to take the under 3 goals here because I just don't see fireworks in this match. I think both teams will take it very slowly, and I think we won't see 4 goals there. A worst case scenario, we see 3, and it's a push. So sign me up for the under 3 goals here.
We're signing him up for the under. I'm going to give Kevin the final word on this one. So I'm going to go to Bryan next on this one. Bryan, you look at the 2 games between these teams this year, and Ten Hag got a taste of how good City is the first time they played 6-3 at the Etihad. But he turned the tables on Pep and the boys 2-1 at Old Trafford. So they can play with this team and they can beat them. They've shown they can. Give me your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, hard to believe that Ten Hag was the first Man U manager to lose his first 2 matches in charge, and that, at that point, United was at the bottom of the table. August was a long time ago, guys. Of course, City are looking to become the first team to win the treble, Premier League, the FA Cup, the Champions League, since United did it in 99. I think it was last week when we were breaking down United versus Chelsea, we all mentioned how stingy United has been at Old Trafford this season. They finished the Premier League season conceding a league low 10 goals at home. But as Pavlos so eloquently pointed out there, this match is not being contested at Old Trafford, where, as you mentioned, Carm, coincidentally enough, United handed City the rare loss back in January 2-1, and it was a different story in the reverse all the way back in October. That was a 6-3 final. Both Haaland and Foden scoring 3 times. That was only the 3rd time in Premier League history, guys, that 2 players on the same side went for a hat trick in the same match. So this is where I duck. I bet against City on Sunday, cashing a ticket with Brentford. Maybe I'm picking up the plane tickets, Carm, this summer. But certainly I don't think, much like Sevilla, that City should be concerned at all with that loss because, there was no Haaland, no De Bruyne. It was just the 2nd time they lost since falling to United in January. Obviously don't want to lay the price on City here, but unlike Pavlos, so I'm ducking again, I do expect goals. City's attack, they're good for a couple. United has conceded 33 goals in 19, when in the Premier League away matches. So over 1 per match. I'm going to take, and this is available at DraftKings, plus 110, City to win and over 2.5. That is my lean for Saturday.
All right, City over. Sorry, repeat that again because I'm jotting it down right here.
City to win plus over 2.5. That's plus 110 at DraftKings.
All right. I like that play. And Kev, I'm going to give you the final word. What are your thoughts on and then you can tell us who you think is going to win this game. What are your thoughts on both teams to score and over 2.5? And that's also a plus price at plus 105.
Yeah, why not, Carmine? Look, you know yourself with me, I rarely bet cup games. I believe I've only bet 3 all season. So that shows you they really don't make the top of my card. You know, when you've got competitions with the likes of Stoke and Portsmouth and so on reaching finals, it's not a competition. I like to bet there's just too much variance. That said, look, you guys covered a lot of it. We know Pep wants this treble. As Bryan said, he'd only be the second manager ever to do it behind the great Alex Ferguson. But City are, by a reasonable, significant margin, the better team here, strength for strength. So am I going to bet it? No. You know, for a team gunning to equal Alex Ferguson's record, the last team you'd want to be facing is Manchester United. They'll be absolutely, G'd up ahead of this one to make sure that doesn't happen. So not a play for me, but definite, just because of the strength of the teams on display. Lean to City on the -1 handicap lane here.
All right, I like it. And speaking of Pep, he's making his way around. Pep was on the second last episode of Ted Lasso last Wednesday as AFC went to the Etihad to take on Pep and his top of the league team. And Ted Lasso dealt Pep a 2-0 loss in that game. So Pep's making his way around. He'll be at Wembley this weekend. It's 10 a.m. game for those of you who aren't sure. 10 a.m. Eastern time is that FA Cup final from Wembley. All right, let's finish it off with Pep once again. Pep will be in the Champions League final. Man City and Inter Milan. The odds on this one, Man City -255. The draw +390. And Inter Milan is +600 in this one. And Bryan, I'm going to go to you first on this one. We talked about it. We'll know whether Pep's in line to win the treble after this weekend. But give me your thoughts on this one.
Well, since we just talked about City, let's focus on Inter here. City, obviously, the big FA Cup final on Saturday. But Inter's final domestic match of the season at Torino means absolutely nothing to them. They've already clinched the top 4 spot. And they'll be back in the Champions League next season. I've said it many times on the show recently, but right now I think Inter is the best team in Italy. It's Serie A league, by the way, could win every European Cup this season. How about that? Inter, they've won 10 of 11 overall, outscoring the competition, 28-9 on aggregate. Only lost during that stretch with the rotated squad, where they were sandwiched between the Champions League and the Coppa Italia final. And in the previous 2 rounds of the Champions League, going back to Man City, Pavlos hit on the pricing, right? We all marveled at what a big favorite City was at home against Bayern Munich and against Real Madrid. And they, of course, won both of those. Well, this is not at home, and yet the price is higher. And you guys can feel free to correct me if you feel differently, but I don't think the gap between Inter and Bayern Munich or Inter and Real Madrid is that substantial. So I'm gladly going to take Inter +1.25 here at -105. If City wins on Saturday, I assume you're going to be able to get 1.5. I think it's available at some places already if you're willing to pay the juice, but I absolutely love Inter getting a 1.25 head start here, Carm, in next Saturday's Champions League final.
All right, and they have had a good season, obviously, in Serie A. Napoli ran away with the title very early on, putting distance between them and everyone else, and it was basically a battle for those final 3 Champions League spots. Kev, I'm going to go to you next on this one. The first thing people think when they're thinking about Man City in any game is the total and a lot of goals being scored. It's kind of that feeling I had when Bayern Munich played Paris Saint-Germain, PSG, in the final of the Champions League, and I thought, well, we're going to see a lot of goals there. And that game finished 1-0 with, I think, a second half Kingsley Coleman goal of all things. 1-0 final there. Do we see goals in this one, or are you looking elsewhere?
Oh, that brings back my 9-1 ticket on PSG, and I didn't hedge because I don't like hedging. That was a tough game to watch. But going back to the last round, Carmine, I took Real Madrid in leg one, which was a half winner, I believe. Very happy with how things played out in that game. But then I came straight back in leg two, almost made it a 5%, but I put it in as a 4% best bet in Manchester City just to win the game outright. And like we all seen, City ran Madrid straight out of the building. And I actually had a client message me prior to that second leg saying, like, how can you be so high on Madrid one week and then all over Man City in the next week? And, Bryan mentioned it, Pavlos mentioned in the last game as well. It all boils down to Manchester City's road home form data this season. At home, this team have been absolutely unreal. They haven't lost a game going all the way back to November. Even in that game, I believe it was against Brentford, 111 to 33 dangerous attack advantage, somehow still managed to lose. They've outscored opponents across 2023 by a mammoth 57 goals to 7, 57 to 7 at home across the calendar year. At the Etihad, this team have been an absolute Goliath, but obviously for this game, they're not going to be at the Etihad, and their numbers just haven't been the same on the road. City are averaging over an expected goal per game less offensively away from home this season in this competition. Defensively, they're allowing 6.2 shots per game on average at home, compared with almost double that on the road, 10.3 shots per game allowed on average. That drops them all the way down from first to sixth in that table. And City are also guilty of not working the ball into the box enough away from home as well. 64% of all of their shots at home in the Champions League so far have come inside the 18-yard box. That drops all the way down to 51% on the road. They're predominantly doing more long-range efforts, almost doubling again from 26% to 45%. So they're just not doing the same kind of work on the road as they are at home. And also, look, even without the data, this is just a kind of cloud hanging over this game. Will Pep potentially overthink himself yet again? We just know from previous competitions and campaigns that's something he's tended to do. So, even without all the stats and data, you'd be nervous about backing this kind of line on Manchester City in a final. So I perfectly agree with Bryan. I think plus 1.25 on Inter is a great line because, look, they just don't have the same home road to form drop-off. Inter's drop-off on expected goal differential is minus 0.28. Man City's is minus 1.44. That is absolutely huge. So, yeah, I agree with Bryan. Inter plus 1.25 for me.
Okay, and we're going to give Pavlos the final word on this one. Pavlos, a lot of things when you look at this game, you're going to expect, obviously, City to have a majority of the possession. If they spend a lot of time, obviously, on the Inter side of the field, they're going to create some chances, and we'll see whether they create goals. The Holland versus Acerbi matchup. Will the 35-year-old Italian center back be able to control Holland? Give me your thoughts on this one. Pavlos?
Yeah, I was muted. Sorry. No, he won't be able to stop Haaland. There's more, younger people and more capable that haven't been able to stop him. Now, I'm not sure if Haaland's going to score, but Acerbi is surely going to have a tough time. He's one of the most card-friendly players in that Inter side, and I always, see who they're playing against. And sometimes I bet they're not official plays, but sometimes I personally bet on Acerbi to be carded because I see him. I've watched a lot of Inter matches, and he's a hothead. And I like hothead players because they can lose it at any point in the match. They can lose it, whether they can see the goal or, there's all kinds of things that they can fire up a player like that. So his focus is not entirely there, especially in the final, moments of the match, in the final minutes. So, yeah, this is a strange match as well. I'm going to echo what I said before. This is not a home match for, Manchester City, as Kevin, dropped all the stats. These are true. This might be confusing because there are a lot of stats, but it is true. And, it's a huge difference to play at the Etihad Stadium at home, where 100% of the people there are cheering for you. When you look at the stands, everybody's wearing your shirt, the same color. And it's a whole different situation to be away from home with other people in the stadium who are also shouting, who are also booing you. City, they have the best squad in the world. They have the best striker in the world, the best playmaker in the world. And when they play at home, they just are out of this world. But on the road, these things tend to balance out. And Inter Milan, I've said this about Simone Inzaghi in the past. He is, I believe he's called Re delle Coppe, or Cups King in the Italian soccer community. He's won 7 out of 8 cup finals across the Coppa Italia and the Coppa and the Super Coppa Italia. So he's a good tactician in finals. Of course, he hasn't met a team of the magnitude of Manchester City yet, but we just have to take into consideration that he's not a loser. He's a winner in cup finals. So I don't agree with Manchester City's favoritism in this match, and I know fully well what I'm getting myself into by picking a second under in Manchester City, because they could be 3-0 up at the 15th minute, and then everybody's weeping about their ripping their bets or whatever. But if Inter play smart, they can definitely keep this at least within reach. So I think the under 2.75 goals, which is pressured, it will go to under 3 goals soon, is the way to go. Don't go heavy on it. It's a cup final, a Champions League final, so anything could happen. But judging by what I've seen so far, I believe this could easily finish with 1 or 2 goals.
All right, that's Pavlos with the final word on this. And as Brian mentioned, 3 Italian teams across the 3 European finals. This could be, and if all 3 win, maybe they hand over that Farmers League tag to the Uber Eats League One, where it's PSG and just a bunch of other teams as well too. All kidding aside, Kev, let's close up the show. We're gonna have a look at your leans. Tell us what you have up at WagerTalk, and you have a promo code for us.
Yeah, we got a 5% MLS triple pack loaded up for tomorrow's card, Carmine. It's only the second 5% MLS release of the season so far for me, so pretty rare. But I really like this midweek card. I bundle that 5% with a 4% and 3% best bets also. So definitely join us for that. Last thing to mention, as well as you said, that is the final day to take advantage of code ACCESS20. ACCESS20. That knocks a 3-day all access pass down from $59 to $39, which coincidentally is the exact same price as the MLS triple pack. So, do the math, take advantage of that, and looking to keep up, the soccer run we've been on over the last month.
All right, keep it going, Kevin. Best of luck to you on that play. And that access code is a good idea because you get 3 days of plays for $39. The MLS play, 5% play itself is $35. So for $4, you get 3 days of plays, including that 5% play. Pavlos, man, for a man whose beard is just as sharp as his plays, man, tell us what you have up at WagerTalk.
I have a 4% best bet for today. Goes live in about 2 hours from now. I have a 5% MLS banger for Wednesday. And I have a 4% Europa League best bet for Wednesday. And a free play is also loaded on MLS free play at my page. I have to say, number 1 in soccer last 7 days. Number 1 in soccer last 30 days. And I'm 42 and 23 in 5% releases in over a year, which is good enough to be WagerTalk's number 1 in 5% releases. So super excited. 3 plays loaded and 1 free play. Go check it on my page.
All right, Pavlos, best of luck to you on your plays and on those leans as well too for our clients. Brian, we're going to close it off with you because you're the $2 capper at WagerTalk. Tell us what you have up, and we'll have a look at your plays. You're muted.
Imagine muting yourself when you're the $2 capper on Tuesday. Wow. But look, it really is that simple. It is $2 for my 5% winner today. 74% with all 5% plays going back to December. That is all sports. It's number 1 at WagerTalk. During that time, we have won 5 straight 5% plays. In fact, this one is in Major League Baseball, where I'm 18-8. My last 26 plays overall, up 71.9 units at the ballpark, going back to last year's playoffs. So once again, a 5% winner, just $2. Doesn't get much better than that. And I would like to close by saying It has been my pleasure. Thank you guys for having me here on the program this season. It was great. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it at least 1/10 of the amount I enjoyed being with you guys. Thanks for having me.
All right. Best of luck with your play. And you guys have been awesome all season long. We want to thank everyone who tunes in each and every Tuesday and Thursday when we have multiple shows to Stoppage Time. This is the last episode for this season. We may have a special episode in which we cover the tournaments that are going on this summer. We'll just go through some future bets and some prop bets for those. But listen, we appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week, and we're looking forward to August when the new European seasons start with it's normally the Bundesliga and La Liga and EPL that kick off first. So I'm looking forward to those. Guys, Puck Time will return on Friday as the Stanley Cup Finals is finally set up with the Las Vegas Golden Knights and the Florida Panthers, two teams that have not won a cup, playing for their first cup, and that game one goes on Saturday. Andrew McInnes and I will be on Friday to preview that series and game one. Again, for myself, Bryan Pavlos Sagaratos, and Kevin Dolan, this is Stoppage Time, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck with your wagers.
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.